Some of your listeners are probably going to say, well, whoever told you that Lucado is wrong. But here's what we found. We Googled, where do sunflowers turn on a cloudy day? And the answer was they turn to each other. They turn and they face each other, and they draw energy from each other. Again, wow. I'm not saying that's scientific truth.
Yeah.
Don't hold me to that. But even the possibility of that, Patrick, is a picture of what we got to do right now. It's a cloudy day. It's a cloudy day. We can't see the sun. You know, the sky doesn't seem as blue as it used to be. So let's do what you're urging us to do. Let's gather around. Let's gather around the table if it's possible. And let's draw energy one from another. And so, from my sunflower to your sunflower, I send you blessings and hope and pray for your strength and safety. And I know you're sending the same to me. And through your podcast, you're sending it out to others.
Welcome to the Lone Star Play Podcast. I'm your host, Patrick Scott Armstrong. Join me and a famous guest every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. We discuss their career, life, food, Texas, and everything in between. Let's get started. All right, guys, and welcome to another episode. I'm your host, Patrick Scott Armstrong. Thank you so much. Great episode coming up today. Very interesting episode. This was a great question to pose, right? Who are we, right? Where do we come from, and why are we here? This is the question that a lot of us pose, right, in life. So you just heard a clip, obviously, as you do at the beginning of every episode. But this is a great episode. My guest today is a best-selling Christian author and pastor. I wonder if he hates hearing Christian author, right? That does sound weird. So you know what? He's a best-selling author, and he is a pastor, so that's his job in San Antonio. And I really had a pleasure talking to him. So his name is Max Lucado. And again, just a phenomenal conversation I had with the guy. And I was honest with him. I'm not a believer, as you would say, whatever the correct term is. But as always, right, that doesn't matter. That doesn't need to be the conversation that we need to have all the time. So we just talked as, human beings, as Texans. It was just a really great conversation. And, having Max on was actually really, really cool for me, to be honest with you. And I learned a lot from him. And I just really appreciated his candidness and openness to talk. And I really, really appreciated that. That meant a lot to me. And he was a great guy and funny too. And, we talked about food. We talked about his new book that he's got coming out. And look, he writes a book a year. That's amazing. He's a hard worker. This guy does a lot, and he does a lot for his community, and I think that's something that I absolutely would be 100% proud of. And he is, I'm sure, as well, and I'm sure his family is as well. So again, it was a really great conversation. I really enjoyed talking to Max, a really cool guy. And, check out his books, check out his stuff. He does these daily devotions online you can find. And honestly, look, whether you believe in it or not, there's positive stuff there to find. So, yeah, really, really cool guy. Make sure you check him out. He's online, social media, all that stuff. You can go to his website. Just again, fantastic guy, Max Lucado. So, but before we get to the episode, don't forget, I'm always going to be pushing you guys. Check out our social media, okay? Go to Texas Real Food. Again, all the social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. If you're watching it, you see me looking at you. So, right, click the button. There's a button. It's subscribe, and then it's got this little bell. You click, it dings, it notifies you, and that way you know of every new episode that we have coming up. Because we do this all week, guys. This is my job. Hello. Okay, so Monday, Wednesday, Friday, you're going to find all these great new episodes highlighting all these amazing Texans and what they do. And we always talk Texas, and we always talk food. Those are two standards that usually come up in every episode. And then, of course, their career, whoever they are. And we try to keep the guest list diverse. And I think you'll find we have been doing that, right? It's an amazing guest list, very diverse, of all kinds of different people from all kinds of different backgrounds. And, So that's phenomenal. So this is a great episode. Again, just follow us, like us, give us a review. That would be awesome. The team loves that. Okay, we give each other virtual high fives when that happens. So it keeps us motivated. And you guys have been. We've been really getting some great feedback on the show, and people really liking it, and the interviews and what we're doing. So thank you so much. It really means a lot to us. It's why we do it. And if we continue to hear that and get that support, right? Tell your friends. That's how you really help us. Let them know, hey, there's this great podcast. Check out this, find out. You love Texas? Boom. You're not from Texas? You want to learn more about Texas? Here you go. This is us. So yeah, that's how it would help us. We will be able to continue to bring you all these great shows. And if you have any suggestions, let us know. If you have somebody you want us to bring on that we haven't brought on, tell us. Email us, okay? info@Texas Real Food, or just email me direct. That's fine. Patrick@Texas Real Food. Don't spam me, okay? Don't spam me. Don't send me about some, cookies you need me to buy. I mean, maybe. Let me see what the cookies are like first. So honestly, email me. It's fine. Let me know. We'll take care of it. So again, great episode. Max Lucado. Check us out online. Go to Texas Real Food. Also our website, thelonestarplay.com. Find all the information. All right. So thank you so much. Here's the episode. Max Lucado. Enjoy.
I love Texas. I love talking. So I'm in the right spot.
We got a lot in common already, Max. I can see that already. Well, that's great. So, Max, tell us a little bit about where you said you're in San Antonio.
Yeah.
Are you're a pastor there in San Antonio?
I am. I've lived in San Antonio since 1988, so quite a while now.
Wow. Yeah.
I've been at the same church all these years.
Wow.
I'm actually semi-retired. I was senior pastor forever, it seemed, and then about 3 years ago, I moved into a role that we call teaching pastor, and basically that means that I preach maybe 20 or 25 times a year, but I don't have to lead the staff anymore. I'm not the guy in charge, and so this is a little more of a reduced role. I'm 65 years old, and so it was time. We got a great young pastor, Travis Eads, and we got a great team moving in. So it's been a great run for me. It continues to be, but my role here has changed just a bit over the last few years.
Nice. And what have you been supplementing that with other stuff? Are you writing more, for instance, or just spending more time with family, or more Max time, or what?
Yeah. It's funny how I stay so busy, and then I look up and I say, I thought I was going to slow down, but I still do a lot of writing, Patrick. I write a book a year.
Wow.
And also I write at least one, maybe two children's books a year.
That's phenomenal.
In the pre-pandemic days, I did quite a bit of travel. I like to go and speak at different organizations, churches. Sure. I'm doing more online stuff, kind of like what you're doing, not nearly to the quality that you do it, but I do 3 or 4 days a week. I'll post a 8 or 10 minute message on Facebook and on Instagram. So I'm finding social media is a great use of time. It's good. I'm healthy. I'm happy. We got 3 daughters, one of whom lives in Austin. Nice. One lives in Waco, and one lives in San Antonio. So we keep I-35. And then we have two terrific little grandchildren that are 5 and 2. So we get to see them. So it's good. I'm a blessed man.
That's fantastic. Are you guys planning on? Have y'all had a chance to get together during the pandemic at all? A little bit.
We do. We do. We do. We get together. We'll get together over Labor Day weekend, and which of course we try to be safe.
Of course,
my daughter and son-in-law who live here in San Antonio had COVID about 2.5 months ago.
Oh gosh, I'm sorry to hear that.
It was pretty rough, especially for my son-in-law. He said it was very painful for him, but they didn't have to go to the hospital or anything. So we're grateful for that.
Thank goodness.
Otherwise, we've been safe.
Food is very creative. It's sign of yourself. I'm sure you guys cook at home. Max, what do you guys, cook at home when you guys are cooking a meal?
Yeah, I wish I could say I cooked, but my wife would laugh at the very thought of it. My wife is very health conscious,
Yeah,
and has become so in the last 10 or 15 years, and so she really pushes us to be gluten free. She really tries to keep sugar out of
that's
our
good.
house as much as possible. I mean,
That's
there was
good.
a time, years ago, Patrick, when I could open up the pantry and there'd always be Oreos or barbecue potato chips or, all the stuff that I really like. And she's pretty strict right now.
Yeah.
And so I complain about it, but I know it's good for me. I know it's good
Yes.
for me. So in her
Yes.
cooking, it's austere is a word that comes to mind. Nothing that doesn't need to be on the plate is there. So it's very seldom do we have
I love
an
that.
abundance of bread. We won't have an
Yeah.
abundance of potatoes. It'll be pretty straightforward. Last night, for example, there was broccoli. She found a recipe for gluten-free enchiladas. Does that sound possible?
Yeah.
Can you do that? She whipped it up and it was good. It was good. And I'll say I've gotten used to it. We went over to a friend's house for dinner, for lunch about 2 or 3 weeks ago. And this lady, God bless her, she cooks with so much butter. It's kind of a throwback, to how we used to eat. And it was so good. I ate 2 helpings, and then I was a mess for the rest of the day because I think my system forgot how to process
Yeah.
all the stuff that she was using. And
Yep.
so though I sometimes long to, go to just kind of eat the old way, I think it is, it's a good thing to what she's doing.
Oh, 100%. I agree. I commend your wife. Those
Yeah.
all sound like great things. It's all about a balance. That's
Yeah.
the best way to eat. It's just a nice balance. And the truth is, you can have an Oreo, you just can't have the whole bag. Yeah, that's really how it goes.
You can't. Oh no, I thought you could.
Max, you got me thinking, because when you asked me, it was such a great question of what makes a good chef. Well, it got me thinking, what makes a good pastor?
Yeah. Well, I think you have to have a genuine love for God, and it needs to be a call, a real call. When I became a Christian when I was 20, and about the age of 22, I began to sense a desire to be a pastor. And I went to my pastor. I went to the man who pastored the church I was attending. I was a student at the time at Abilene Christian University, way up in West Texas, in Abilene, Texas. And I set up an appointment. I went in, I talked to him and told him I was thinking about becoming a pastor. And he gave me a great line. He said, Max, don't pastor unless you have to. But if you have to, you'll be a good pastor. And that was, I've really come to see that's true. Every job or every position, every call has its challenges. And
Yeah,
being a pastor has I think more than its share. I mean, there's a lot of broken hearts, and you've got to understand what you can do and cannot do. But if
sure.
it's a call on your heart, if you feel like, okay, I was placed on the planet for this purpose, that's enough. That's enough to give you the strength. So I think you have to have a sense of call that I was made for this. I think you do need to have a genuine love for God, a love for the Bible.
Sure. That seems like number one, right? That,
Yeah,
that seems
yeah.
like
I mean,
that. I
you
mean,
can't, Brent, you can't fake that.
yeah, you
You
can't.
can't fake it.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
seems. Yeah, for sure.
yeah. But
Absolutely.
it's been great. It has
Yeah.
been. I started writing books, early in my ministry. I wrote a book way back in 1984, and sent it out. I sent the manuscript to 15 publishers, and I got 14 rejections. But
Oof.
then number 15 said
Mhm.
yes, and
Oh,
that
that's
opened the
awesome.
door. And I've written at least a book a year ever since. and sometimes two. And I really like writing. Now, I think that'd be an interesting question too. What kind of personality makes for a good writer? And
100%.
I think I'm a bit of an introvert. I'm really more of an introvert than an extrovert. And
Wow.
I like being alone, and you have to be alone a lot if you're going to get a book done. People talk to me about writing who are really extroverts, and they say, I have a hard time keeping my butt in the seat and getting the work done. And I say, I get it, but you got to
Yeah.
do it. You got to
Yeah.
do it. I mean, you just got to sit there and get words on the page. And for
Yeah.
me, though, being alone, there's an advantage in being more of an introvert than an extrovert. I think I'm kind of a 60% introvert, 40% extrovert. So I can click that part of my brain in, and it works to my advantage.
Oh, wow. No, that's incredible. There's no way I can barely write a note to somebody. So
You're not alone, friend. You're not
Whew.
alone. And I feel the same way about what you do. You set me in the kitchen, I wouldn't know which way to turn. So we all have our different call, right?
Sure.
So
Sure.
God bless you. It's a good thing you're doing.
Yeah. Well, I don't cook as much anymore. I do the podcast now. But honestly, one day I'm sure I'll get back to it. It's the industry is a love of my life. I love food. I love what it does for people. The health part of it. I'm a big proponent of healthy eating, and especially right now, keeping your immune system and keeping your body healthy is just super important, I think.
Really is.
And it just affects every aspect of your life. It affects your mental state, which in turn affects your relationships and your life and everything. I just think food is just so critical in a person's well-being, physically, mentally, spiritually. Full disclosure, Max, I'm not a Christian or anything, but I believe in a spirituality of something. I believe in a connection. I believe in there's something, right? There's probably something. I just don't know what it is, or maybe there's nothing. I don't know, but I definitely believe in just more than just ourselves, right? And I think, trying to have a connection, I think that's important. So I think food leads to all of that. I think healthy eating gets you there.
And healthy eating and good eating gets us around a table, right?
100%.
Looking at one another, talking
Yeah.
together. And
Yeah.
we're all on a spiritual journey, Patrick.
Sure.
We all are. Nobody's
Sure.
got it all figured out. All we can do is encourage one another. Just a couple of thoughts of what you said. We're going to get through this. We are. We're going to get through this pandemic. We're going to get through all this tension. We're going to be better people. I do believe in a living, loving God, and He's going to get us through this. And I had a great thing happen. Speaking of Texas, just last week, my wife and I were coming back from our vacation. We drove through West Texas. I grew up in a small West Texas town, and we drove through West Texas, Lubbock, Big Spring, San Angelo, that desolate part of the world. Well, that's where I grew up. And but we went right through there. And you know what we saw? This was great. We saw sunflower seeds, sunflower plants.
Yeah.
Let me say that again. Sunflower fields. There it is. Sunflower fields. And they were gorgeous. It was spectacular. If you can imagine, all as far as you can see, bright yellow sunflowers, all facing the sun. And so we started talking. And I said, honey, I wonder what happens on a cloudy day. Where do sunflowers turn? So we Googled it. Now, some of your listeners are probably going to say, well, whoever told you that Lucado is wrong. But here's what we found. So we Googled, where do sunflowers turn on a cloudy day? And the answer was they turn to each other. They turn and they face each other, and they draw energy from each other. Again,
Wow.
I'm not saying that's scientific truth.
Yeah.
Don't hold me to that. But even the possibility of that, Patrick, is a picture of what we got to do right now. It's a cloudy day. It's a cloudy day. We can't see the sun. The sky doesn't seem as blue as it used to be. So let's do what you're urging us to do. Let's gather around. Let's gather around the table if it's possible. And let's draw energy one from another. And so, from my sunflower to your sunflower, I send you blessings and hope and pray for your strength and safety. And I know you're sending the same to me. And through your podcast, you're sending it out to others. I think my concern these days is, yes, about the pandemic, but it's also about the division in our country. It just heavies my heart. It heavies my heart. I just can't believe we can't have civil conversations about different policies. I mean, nobody knows the precise way to run a government, but we all have opinions, but we don't have to yell at each other. We have to yell at each other. And I'm concerned about that, Patrick. And so I'm praying for peace to come, that whatever side of the aisle you find yourself, you could have a civil conversation with somebody, and we could disagree agreeably. And I'm concerned at this lack of civil discourse that's taking place right now.
Well, Max, I got to say, I agree with every word you just said. 100%. I love that sunflower.
Isn't that great?
And that's awesome. It's awesome.
If that's not accurate, please don't tell me, because I don't use that.
I'm with you. I'm going with it. Whether it sounds great, to be honest, there's things that happen like that in nature. Plants that move closer, right? They move into the shade to get out of the sun. All that stuff. So I believe it 100%. But it's great representation of how we should be right now. I agree, and I'm with you on the civil discord. I'm with you on having conversation. I'm with you on all of that 100%. I mean, look, I grew up in Texas. You're gonna, find people with different views here. So I've just grown up my whole life getting into those conversations, and I know it's possible. So when I see it not happening, it's like, it's definitely possible. When they say, I just, it definitely bothers me for sure. And like you, it just breaks my heart more than anything.
Well, we'll do better. We're going to do better. We're going to do better. And
I hope, absolutely.
And God bless us all. And as Willie says, God bless Texas.
God bless Texas. I can get behind that 100%. I love it. So let's talk about, I'm just so curious about your writing style and how you go about your writing. I love talking to creative people and how they approach the craft, and everyone has a particular way. You mentioned before that, one of the ways you just got to get it done, right? You got to sit down and get it done. But let's break that down a little bit more. What are some of your techniques or tactics you have? Are you like to listen to music? Are you, hey, nobody talk to me for 10 hours. I'll see you guys on Tuesday. I mean, what sort of, take us through a day of writing, maybe.
Yeah.
How that goes.
The first step, the first takeaway for me is I've got to isolate the big idea. What's the big idea of this book?
Yeah.
And my desire is that I would, once I land on that big idea, that I could carry it through the 11, 12, 13 chapters. For example, I have a new book coming out this month, and it's called You Are Never Alone. You Are Never Alone. And it's based on the miracles of Jesus that are recorded in the Gospel of John. There's 4 Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And the Gospel of John is really unique because at the end of the Gospel of John, the apostle said, I wrote these deeds so that you could be strong in your faith. So he says, here's the reason I wrote this book. That phrase has always intrigued me. So I went through the Gospel of John and I looked at all the miracles that he recorded. And I thought, now how could knowing this miracle give me stronger faith, make me a better person? And so that was the big idea of this book, and is the big idea. And that is, by looking at these miracles, by studying each one, I'll be stronger in my faith. And I'll really believe I'm not alone, that God is with me and he's here to help me. So, there's about 10 miracles in the Gospel of John, which worked out great for me because typically my books are about 10 or 12 chapters long. Yeah. And so I went and I took, there's Jesus turning the water into wine, Jesus healing the son of a man, Jesus healing a leper, Jesus calling Lazarus out of the grave. And so there's just these powerful events that are recorded in the Gospel of John. So once I had that framework, once I had the big idea, then I had my framework, then I could get to work,
Yeah.
Then I could say, okay, this is my procedure. And I've got a great editorial team. I do all my own writing, but I have two editors that are ruthless. And if I go chasing rabbits, I'll send a chapter in. They say, "Boy, you got off on the trail here. Get us back. What's your big idea?" And so trying to get back to that. And so it takes me about 6 or 8 months, all in all, of about 2 or 3 days a week of 6 or 7 hour days to write a book. And then we get it, and then we edit it, and then I submit it. So I would say from start to finish, it's about 6 to 8 month process. But that works
intense
for me, Patrick. That's what works for me.
That's great. That's intense. Really, that sounds intense because you got all the other stuff going on. It's not like you're just doing that, So
right. Yeah. I write on Mondays and Wednesdays and Thursdays. So I'll block 3 days a week. Okay. You and I are talking on a Tuesday. Tuesdays are my talk day. I have meetings, get with people. If anybody wants to come in for counseling, that's Tuesday. And I try to take Friday off, and especially if I'm preaching on the weekend. So that's where that schedule works well for me.
No, that's great. That's great. You found something that works, and I love it.
Yeah.
I think it's fantastic. I think that's great. So let me ask you this, and I hope I'm not being too forward. Yeah, I'm just.
Oh no!
Again, it's like if we were having a meal. This is how I am. I just like to ask questions. I'm a very curious person. So you said about the miracles. I'm curious. Do you feel that those miracles that are literal, or do you feel that they're like figurative in some way? I'm just curious.
Great question. That's a great question. The reason I believe they're literal, and the reason I believe that is because after the resurrection of Christ, 50 days later, the church began in Jerusalem, and the church began with a sermon that was preached by the Apostle Peter. And in that sermon, he said, "You yourselves know the miracles accomplished by Christ in your midst." So we have the sermon. It's recorded right there in the Bible. So I've often thought, when he said, "You yourselves know," he's speaking to a crowd of at least 3,000 people, because 3,000 people were baptized and began the church. And so he could, if those people had not known, if they had not seen the miracles, Peter would have been laughed out, kicked out, run out. But the fact that the church began that day, it says to me, these people said, "You know what? We did see some things. We were there when he fed the crowd. We heard the story of Lazarus being raised from the dead." I think there were people there in the audience that day who they themselves had been healed or helped or blessed. And so I think they were literal miracles. And Patrick, we see miracles today. We have miracles in our church. I share some miracles in the book of a special friend of ours who on our church staff had a spine that was curved, and because of prayer she was healed. Now, miracles exist to help us draw closer to God. God is not a bellhop. We can't just say, "Do this," and he'll do it. But there are times in which he does supernatural events to get our attention, to affirm us, to draw us closer to him. And I believe he's a miracle working God. I believe the greatest miracle will be heaven. That's the greatest miracle. And that's what's coming next. And that's when we'll live in a graveless, tearless, sinless world. But until then, we'll still have graves. We'll still have tears. We'll still have sin. But he uses miracles to keep us strong and to help us get through it.
Yeah. Okay, absolutely.
Thanks for
I'm
the
with
question.
you. Yeah, of course. Look, if I was back then and something like that happened from me, what? Did y'all see that? Did you? Holy cow. Absolutely. I personally have never witnessed a miracle, as you have put it. But look, if I did, it happened. I wouldn't deny it. That's for sure. It just hasn't happened for me. I don't know. I'm open to it though. If it happens,
that's all you need.
Yeah.
Just be open.
Sure.
Open. I urge people. I say, just be open to the possibility
100%.
of a living, loving God. Just be open.
Sure.
To that. That's faith.
I am.
That's where faith starts.
I'm definitely open to it.
Yeah. Well, I tell you one thing. God loves you. He loves you. I can tell you that. I feel that in my heart, and he loves you, and he's got a special plan for you.
Well, I'll take all the love I can get. I'm not gonna lie. It's fine with me. Bring it. Yeah, absolutely. Bring it. There's nothing wrong with that. Yeah, it's always been a interesting conversation for me. You're not gonna lie. I grew up Catholic. Yeah, but I wouldn't say practicing in the sense, my mom, again, is from Mexico. So we would go to mass here and there and things like that. But it wasn't like, I don't know, anything to whatever in the house. My mom loves crosses. So there's crosses all over my mom's house. My mom just has a personal relationship with God. She just always talking to God and praying, and that's her thing. That's what she does. But she doesn't go to a church or anything like that. Right. When she goes to Mexico, she will go to mass every Sunday with my family there, and Tuesday, Wednesday they go light candles. They do the thing, whatever they do. Yeah. So it's been around. And actually, when I was about 18, I joined a Baptist church actually for a few years. So I used to, go to church. I got baptized. I helped in the college area a little bit, playing songs, that sort of thing.
So you're a musician, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say that. You don't want to hear me play nothing, Max. They needed somebody. I jumped up, but no way. I would not call myself a musician by no means. It was just, something to do to get in there. I was searching, I was looking. It always stuck with me. I've learned so much from that time, and I moved on from that in my life, and it's fine. Nothing's been negative about it. It was a positive experience for the most part for me, to be honest with you. I still have friends from back in that. Still to this day, from back in that time, I met some of the greatest people, to be honest with you. I learned some really great things, and it's all stuck with me, 20 years later. So, it's always been a good experience. I'm all about it. I'm very open to it, and I have no problem with it, to be honest with you. I'm all about freedom of religion and everybody believing what they think. I respect it a lot, honestly, when somebody cares deeply about something. Because a lot of people are missing something like that in their life.
We're in a desperate situation right now, and calls to emotional help hotlines are 900 times right now what they were this time last year.
Wow,
900 times.
Wow.
CNN had a study just about 2 weeks ago in which that stated 24% of young people age 18 to 24 have considered suicide in the prior 10 days. So my heart is heavy for our people. My heart is horrible.
Heavy.
Yeah. And so maybe I'm talking to somebody today who's going through a hard time. And I'd like to tell you, don't beat yourself up. This is an unusual time. I mean, this is a triple tsunami that we're going through. It really is.
You're
the
right.
Pandemic, economic crisis, the racial tension, and now an election, and it's easy to feel beat up. So I would encourage people who are in a slump, you feel flat, you feel no stirring in your heart. Could I just open your heart to the possibility of a good God who loves you and cares for you? And maybe you've never talked to him. And what I would say to you is to give it a go. What do you got to lose? Just talk to him. Talk to him. Sure. Tell him what's on your heart. Tell him what's on your heart. And I would also encourage a person who's really discouraged. I say, get a Bible and find this book I'm talking about, the Gospel of John. And it's a beautiful book. You don't have to understand everything. You don't have to believe everything. But I tell people, Patrick, read until you feel something in your heart. That's the presence of God touching your heart. You may be reading along and say, whoa, I needed to hear that today. And just receive that like, okay, God's talking to me. Now, you're not having to become some fanatic. You don't have to worry about going crazy. Just get on the journey like you are, Patrick. Just get on the journey. We're all figuring this out as we go through life. But sure. I am concerned because so many people are so down right now.
Yeah.
And so I'm feeling passionate these days about urging people to believe you're never alone. God's with us. And I really think he's going to get us through this.
Well, that's I've definitely have faith, no pun intended. I use that word so much, so freely. Talking to you using that word, I feel like it has a different meaning behind it. But I do mean that. I mean, I do believe that I think we're going to be fine. We're all strong. Everyone I know is very strong, especially Texans and Americans, the world. My wife's from Spain. She's over there right. Yeah, she's over there right now, actually, with her family helping out a little bit. So
good for her.
it's a global thing
It is,
happening,
isn't it?
right? So we're all going to get through this. I do believe that humanity's strong, and
Remember the sunflower
for
fields.
sure. Yeah, I agree. I
That's
agree.
great.
That's
We'll
a great
draw
point.
energy from each other.
That is the way we're going to get through this, is coming together as a community, and whether it be finding a higher purpose, or whatever it is, to help you get through it. I'm all about it. So whatever people need, absolutely. You're definitely not alone, and that saddens me to hear about the phone calls, and the percentage of the suicide and all that. That's just it's heartbreaking to hear that.
It's not really surprising. I mean,
that's true.
We were already a lonely people before the pandemic. The sense of loneliness is pretty pervasive in our day, but the pandemic is really taking its toll. But so we got to dig deep. We got to dig deep and keep each other encouraged. Text somebody today. Call somebody today.
Yeah, there you go.
Somebody up. Tell them you're thinking about them. Hanging in there with them. And also, forgive me for sounding too pastoral here, Patrick. But I urge
no,
people,
please.
I say don't do something. You can't fix stupid with stupid. Sometimes people they're down in the dumps, and they do some stupid things that only create more loneliness. You know what I mean? And it could be a variety of things, but usually it's an abuse of alcohol, or abuse of some type of drug, or maybe angry outbursts. People try to treat their pain with something that creates more pain.
Sure.
So be careful there. I urge people, just be careful. Watch out. Where's your weakness? Where's your blind side? Okay. And say, okay, I'm going to stay away from that during this time, because it could really pull me down. And so watch out. Try to stay healthy, try to eat good, try to exercise, and open yourself up to the possibility of a living, loving God who's going to get you through this.
Yeah. And don't forget about getting God. Yeah. I was like,
that's it.
I'm with you. Well, look, there's nothing negative I can say about that. Absolutely. 100%. I love your positivity, to be honest with you, man. I love it. It's infectious. I've always enjoyed, again, I'm not a believer, but I've always enjoyed, I'm just a curious person. So I enjoy messages from all over. Right. I actually will look into, I love hearing messages from other religions as well. Any other beliefs, philosophical or this. I'm always just curious of what's out there, and I love it. I love the universe. I love space. I love talking about that stuff too. I love that stuff is just so curious to me, because it is such a crazy question. It's probably the biggest question that humans have.
It's the question,
right? The question: Where do we come from, and why are we here?
I think one of the challenges is that we live in a day of much know-how and not much know why. And the reason I love your curiosity is you're saying, why are we here? That's the question. Why are we here? We got a lot of know-how. We know how to put a computer inside a cell phone. I mean, that's pretty amazing. Yeah,
it is. You're right.
But we need to focus also on the know why. So good for you that you're curious. You're asking the good questions, questions. We need to ask these questions. Sure. And again, I'm sorry, I know that sometimes we pastors can come across as harsh, or maybe a person's had a bad experience in a church. I'm sorry. Churches are made up of people. And so people have bad experiences, but
it was nothing like that for me, to be honest with you. It was really nothing like that for me. Just my life. I don't want this to sound harsh, but look, I speak truth. Okay. This is how I talk. I just didn't believe anymore. I mean, I'm just being as blunt as I can be. I apologize if that comes off.
No.
Again, I'm just telling you where I was. Just for me, it's not happening. I wasn't feeling anything or seeing it. I tried. I really tried for years to, okay, I'm going to sit here. I'm going to do everything that you're telling me to do to receive this. And it just wasn't happening. And look, for me, there was just conflicts with certain facts and things I just couldn't get over myself. But again, I'm nothing negative towards it. There was no, oh gosh,
Right.
I'm so angry. And no, it's fine. I'm still friends with a lot of people. No problem. Yeah, that's what you believe. That's what I believe. Let's do that. We still meeting on Wednesday for dinner? Yes. Okay, great. I have no problem. I'm all about just everybody doing what they need to do. But I don't want to come across as like I had some, horrible experience and I hate it. And that's just not the case at all.
Well, God bless you. God bless you. And
I would go to your church. I would go sit and listen to a sermon. I would. I would love it. I'd probably learn something. I'm all about, you can just always find a moment to learn something from somebody. I think that's important.
I do. I appreciate that. And I think that's the kind of attitude that can keep a person healthy.
Yeah.
Staying open, staying willing, staying curious. I think that's what we all need.
I'm open to it for sure, Max. Look, if something came down and it was like Jesus walked in right now, I wouldn't say, well, I don't see you. I would say, holy cow. I'd say, holy cow. Okay, I'm in. Everybody has a different journey, right?
I do.
And and that's another thing that I love. I love people's journey. And I'm curious about your journey, Max. Were your parents in the church as well, and that's what sort of led you as well?
The super short version is I was a mess by the time I was 20. No dad would have wanted their daughter to go on a date with me. I mean, I was a drunk, I was violent, I was a fighter. I mean, I was a mess. I was, and so my conversion was pretty dramatic. I just didn't have any. I wasn't making any good contribution to the world.
Sure.
And so when a friend convinced me to go to church with him, and I heard that God loves me and that God has a purpose for my life, I mean, it was pretty dramatic. I did go through a phase at the age of 22. In fact, I talk about it in this new book, You Are Never Alone. I went through a phase in which I wondered if I really believed. And a friend said to me, he said, here's what you need to think about. The Christian faith is based on the resurrection of Jesus Christ, that Jesus died on a cross. He was placed in a grave, but he rose again. I mean, we celebrate it every Easter Sunday, right?
Yeah.
He rose from the grave, and he stayed on the earth for 40 days, and then he ascended into heaven. He said, that's the cornerstone of the Christian faith. He said, where was the body of Christ if he wasn't raised from the dead? If the enemies who didn't want the church to begin, if they could have produced the body, they would have, because everybody knew where he was buried. When the friends of Christ were accused of teaching a false philosophy, if Christ was really in the grave, they wouldn't have taught it, because they knew somebody could prove it. And so what this person was helping me do was to realize you don't have to check your brain at the door to be a Christian. Because there's a fact here, and that is an empty grave. What happened to the body of Christ? So I finally came to a conviction, Patrick, that I've lived with all these years. I said, okay, man, he vacated the tomb. He rose from the dead. And so that was for me, my big moment was the age of 20. A big moment was the age of 22. And when I came to a deeper faith, and I've lived with that. That's fueled my faith all these years. Now, I've had struggles. I've messed up.
Sure.
I've broken promises. I've wrestled with temptations. But I really am grateful for the grace of God that forgives me and the power of God that sustains me.
That's awesome. That's awesome. What a great story. That's amazing. I love hearing that.
I'm an old drunk. That's all I am, Patrick. I just
You're way more than that.
I got to watch that. I've got a tendency to treat my problems with Coors. And so I've got to really watch that. I've had to do that for all of my life. So I'm sympathetic with people who battle alcoholism. But you know what? God gives us strength, and he helps us. He helps us.
That's great. Well, I'm glad
Sorry
to hear that.
Sorry if I'm being too long-winded, by the way.
No, Max, please. I love these conversations. This is what life's about. I love these sort of things. We're learning from each other. I love hearing people out. I love hearing people's perspective. I love hearing where they come from and why they are. And
I want to thank you. I really do. You're a great guy. And maybe someday we can break bread together.
Oh, that would be amazing, Max. I really appreciate your time, and my best to you and your family and
Yes,
your
sir.
church and everybody, your congregation.
Thank
I
you.
wish everybody safety and, my best through this time.
Thank you, my friend. All
Thank
the very
you so much,
best.
Max. Thank you so
Bye-bye.
much, Max. Bye-bye.
The Lone Star Plate podcast is produced by Texas Real Food. Go to texasrealfood.com and you can search your city for stores, butchers, restaurants, farmers markets, and more who are using fresh, artisanal, organic sources. It's a fun site that brings all natural options all together. I hope you enjoyed this episode. For more information, go to thelonestarplate.com. I'm your host, Patrick Scott Armstrong. Until next time.